For thousands of years, Egypt did not fear invasion. It feared disruption. As long as the river worked, the state survived. When it stopped, nothing else mattered. For most of its existence, Egypt did not survive because it was unusually flexible or innovative. It survived because its environment behaved in a predictable way for a very long time. The Nile flooded every year, not occasionally, not unpredictably. It followed a pattern that people could plan their lives around. This regular flooding deposited fertile silt across the floodplain. It allowed crops to grow in otherwise inhospitable land. It made large-scale agriculture possible in a region surrounded almost entirely by desert. Over time, this pattern stopped being seen as a natural process. It became an expectation. Entire generations were born, lived, and died without experiencing a true failure of the river. For them, Egypt did not appear fragile. It appeared permanent. The civilization did not ask whether the Nile would flood. It asked how much. Egyptian power did not originate in conquest. It originated in food production. The Nile made it possible to support a dense population along a narrow corridor of land. This concentration allowed administration, taxation, and labor coordination to develop early and efficiently. Grain surpluses supported scribes, priests, soldiers, and officials. These groups did not produce food themselves. They existed because someone else did. Political authority flowed upward from agriculture. If the harvest succeeded, the state functioned. If it failed, no amount of administration could compensate. Armies could not march without food. Temples could not function without offerings. Bureaucracy could not operate without surplus. In Egypt, politics followed the river. Centuries of regular floods shaped Egyptian thinking. The system was not designed to handle uncertainty. Taxes were calculated in advance based on expected yields. Labor obligations assumed that peasants would have enough food to survive while working on state projects. Storage facilities were built to manage short-term shortages, not prolonged failure. This worked because it usually did not need to do more. The absence of frequent crises reduced the incentive to plan for them. Instead of developing alternatives, the system refined itself around one process. Egypt became extremely efficient under normal conditions. It also became extremely vulnerable outside them. The Nile's flooding depended on rainfall thousands of kilometers to the south. Changes in climate patterns in East Africa altered the amount of water reaching Egypt. At times, the floods were lower than expected. At other times, they failed entirely. These were not isolated incidents. They occurred in clusters over decades. Each weak flood reduced reserves. Each reduced reserve increased pressure the following year. The danger was not a single bad harvest. It was the accumulation of uncertainty. Once people stopped trusting the river to recover, the system began to destabilize. Food shortages in Egypt did not appear suddenly, and they did not affect everyone at once. They moved slowly through the structure of the state, exposing how tightly everything depended on agricultural surplus. Most workers were paid in grain. When harvest declined, wages declined with them. At first, this meant smaller rations. Later, it meant delays. Eventually, it meant nothing at all. Without food security, labor became unstable. People abandoned state projects to look for food elsewhere. Canal maintenance suffered, dikes weakened, irrigation became less effective, further reducing yields. This was not chaos, it was erosion. Each missed payment weakened trust. Each abandoned project reduced future output. What began as a problem of climate became a problem of structure. The system had no buffer large enough to absorb repeated failure. The Egyptian state relied on its ability to distribute food. This applied not only to workers, but also to soldiers, officials, and administrators. As grain stores emptied, distribution became irregular. Rations were reduced or delayed. Units stationed far from the Nile were hit first. Discipline weakened not because soldiers rebelled, but because the state stopped functioning reliably. Control depends on predictability. When orders are no longer backed by resources, authority becomes theoretical. Officials still issued commands. The system still existed on paper. In practice, enforcement faded. Power became localized. Central authority remained visible, but ineffective. Provincial officials faced impossible demands. Taxes were calculated for normal years, not prolonged failure. Delivering full quotas meant starving their own regions. Many chose survival. Taxes were reduced or withheld. Reports stopped reaching the center. Records became incomplete or disappeared entirely. Communication weakened. This was not coordinated rebellion. It was quiet disengagement. The state did not fall because it was attacked. It fell because its components stopped responding. The center spoke. The provinces went silent. Egypt did not fail because it lacked intelligence or experience. It failed because its success removed the need to adapt. For centuries, the system worked. That success shaped every institution around stability rather than flexibility. Adaptation requires early pressure. In Egypt's case, pressure arrived when reserves were already gone. There was no alternative agricultural base, no decentralized food system, no redundancy. The civilization had optimized for continuity. When continuity broke, there was nothing else to rely on. Egypt was not destroyed by enemies. It was undone by dependence. A system built around one reliable factor becomes fragile when that factor changes. For centuries, the Nile provided exactly what was needed. Then it did not. Nature did not attack Egypt. It did not make a decision. It simply changed. And the system that depended on consistency had no way to respond.